Well, welcome back. We're just about halfway through our study, the Timothy Leadership Sessions. We've covered some significant ground, but we've got some great stuff, critical stuff, left to get to. Today, we'll get into perhaps one of the most elusive aspects of leadership, setting the vision. We'll also touch on being committed and staying focused on that vision. You know, often when we think of the word vision, we think of something broad and intangible. You know, only great thinkers can grab and create vision. These are visionaries. You know, these are the people we imagine spend their lives on mountaintops, like the ones behind me, or along the banks of isolated rivers or in remote huts, gaining great inspiration as unfathomable visions are, imparted to them. You know, I live at the base of some of the highest peaks in the United States, the peaks of the Rocky Mountains. Behind me, if you can see it, is Pikes Peak and part of what's called the Front Range. And I've got to tell you, they can be very inspirational. But, the fact is, some of our greatest visionaries got their ideas in garages or on farms or in back offices. Beyond that, a great vision needs a great plan. It needs action. In fact, it's been said that a vision without action is a daydream. Daydreams are nice. I like to daydream now and again, but they don't typically accomplish very much. Henry Ford was perhaps the greatest visionary of the industrial age. He's responsible for so many technical and business innovations, including the franchise system for his dealerships, which most dealerships use today, and most notably, the assembly line method of production. He also instituted the $5 workday. Now, that may not sound like much, but this change more than doubled his workers' previous wage of $2.34 a day. This was a big deal. It not only improved retention, but it resulted in some of the best workers and engineers from other manufacturers flocking to Ford to want to work. He then reduced the work week to a 6-day, 48-hour week, and later to a 5-day, 40-hour week that we're familiar with today. Ford converted the automobile from really an expensive curiosity, just for the elite, into a practical mode of transportation for the common man. It would profoundly impact the entire landscape of the 20th century. So the point here is, it's this. Henry Ford was not just a great visionary. He was a man of action. He put his visions into practice and literally impacted people across the globe. His was not a daydream, but a vision followed by action. In fact, he once said, quote, "You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do." You get that? You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. The implication is there, you have to do something. We talked about mountaintop inspiration. Keep something else in mind. Great visions and ideas are often not acquired in isolation. Henry Ford's assembly line approach to manufacturing, the one that revolutionized just the entire industry, that was a culmination of ideas from several men that worked for him, which he then synthesized, perfected, and put into action. So be sure not to exclude the talented people around you when you're endeavoring to craft a vision for your team, your project, or your organization. One of the keys to creating and communicating vision is that it needs to be long range. It needs to look beyond tomorrow. Now, depending on the scope of your initiative, long range could be a few weeks, a few months, or it could be years. But the point is, it needs to have the end in mind. Andy Stanley, again, pastor of North Point Church in Atlanta, great leader, said this: "Prudent people look as far down the road as possible when making decisions." Okay, but what about Paul and his teaching to Timothy? Where's the vision there? Do we see vision communicated? Absolutely. As you read through this first short book of 1 Timothy, you see Paul setting the vision for Timothy throughout. What does he say? He says, supervise the growing church, refute bad leaders and false teaching, identify and raise up new leaders, care for the congregation. See, those were the visions he was imparting throughout. And within each of those visions, he communicates the what, the how, and the why. The action steps. These aren't daydreams, but visions of how Paul sees the church being led, followed by what to do next. Remember in session 3, we talked about the importance of building relationships. Building relationships with those you'll lead. I said that once you've built trust and loyalty through real care, honest care, the team will follow you off a bridge to get the job done. Remember that? But here's the thing. If you don't clearly set and convey the vision and lay out the path to get there, your team won't know what bridge they're headed to. And you'll all end up going off different bridges. So lastly, let me touch on focus and commitment. A vision can be given to the visionary, imparted to a team, and a plan devised and implemented, but it can't stop there. There needs to be demonstrated an ongoing focus and commitment by leadership. Look at what Paul says in 1 Timothy 5, verses 15 to 16. He says this, "Be diligent in these matters. Give yourself wholly to them, so that everyone may see your progress. Watch your doctrine closely." He's saying, be dedicated to the goals. Dive in fully in ways that people will see your commitment. Led by example. Okay, that's how you do that. And then continue to hold on to your values so that your life, both in and outside of the organization, demonstrates your passion and belief in the cause. That's what he's saying there. Vision, implementation, and continuous commitment are not easy. Each one of these steps require exceptional giftings, passion, tenacity. But remember, you don't have to be Henry Ford or lead an enormous organization for all this to apply to you. Even if you're leading one or two other folks in a small office or ministry, your ability to communicate the vision, lead people in implementation, and then, through your passion and commitment, keep it in front of them, will make all the difference. Not only in reaching the goal, but in the very environment in which you find yourself. Again, this not only applies to entire organizations or big companies. It's not just a Henry Ford thing, but to even smaller short-term projects you might be in charge of. So let's re-rack here and regroup. What are the takeaways? They may seem a little less tangible, but let's see if we can't kind of grab hold of them. So while a vision might be given to you, here's your first takeaway. While a vision might be given to you individually in a quiet place or on a mountaintop or at the base of a mountain or bank of a river, it's often a culmination of thoughts or ideas given to you directly and through others. So intentionally include others as you seek to clarify a vision for what you're doing. Next, once your vision takes shape, ensure you develop a plan to put it into action. Another critical area where you'll need to include others. Don't let your vision remain a daydream. Next, ensure you're looking long range. Whatever that might be for your goal. Again, that could be a week or that could be years. As you evaluate your vision, look as far down the road as possible. Remember what Andy Stanley said. And keep the end in mind. Be sure you're clear in communicating. This is our next takeaway. Be sure you're clear in communicating the how, what, and most importantly, the why of the vision. People need to understand the why if they're going to follow you off that bridge. Then, once it's implemented, be sure your team sees your ongoing commitment. Don't let it be yesterday's news. They need to see your passion and engagement in moving toward fulfillment of the vision. You need to continue to communicate it. Again, just like your leadership journey, it's not a one and done. It's not a form the vision, gather people around, get a plan, put it in place, and then walk away and let it run. You have to continually be in front of your team, even if that's a team of one, communicating the vision, reminding people of what it is you're seeking after. I hope that's helpful in trying to synthesize a little bit about what vision can be. And remember, it's not just for mountaintop visionaries. It's not to be done in isolation. And it's not only for those that are running enormous organizations. Okay, in our next session, we'll come down off the mountaintop. We'll move into something maybe a little more tangible. I hope we've made vision a little more tangible for you, but next week we'll run into something a little more tangible. We'll talk about the importance of encouraging your team. We'll talk about some of the right and wrong ways to do that. Encouragement is so important. We all need encouragement, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. So, praying for your leadership journey. Have a great week. See you next time.